Ian from RTO here. It's Saturday morning, so guess who's here? Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Ian. How are you on this rotten morning?
Well, it's not so rotten here. There's some blue skies and clouds.
Oh, it's been raining here, so it's not very nice.
Anyway, what have we got for you today? Well, the other week we did the opening tracks of favourite albums, so we thought we'd do the closing tracks, which I found harder to do.
So did I, to be honest.
Yeah, but I've got it down to the T now. So, usual thing, Richard will go first, I will go second. Bubbling unders, I've got 5 today. I managed to find 5.
I've got about 5 as well, so I have. So there you go.
So I'll give it over to you, Richard, because I know you've got a disclaimer first.
Well, first of all, I did this video again about 4 years ago, so if you want to check that out, by all means do. And I am not including any of those songs or those artists. Also, I am not including closing tracks that were singles. But I do want to give a shout out to my all-time favorite closing track, which is in that video, and that is David Bowie's Big Brother and Chant of the Ever Circling Skeletal Family from Diamond Dogs. So there we go. So that's the one, Dave. I wonder if you actually guessed it.
I think.
Anyway. Anyway, my number 10 is from 1979, and it's from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and it's the closer to Damn the Torpedoes, and it's Louisiana Rain, which is a pretty laid-back tune. It's not fully acoustic, but there is acoustic guitar in it. It's highly melodic. It's a song. It's a story-type song, something you would expect Bruce Springsteen to sing. But I think it's really, really good, and it's the highlight of that Damn the Torpedoes album for me. It's not rocky, laid back, but really, really good. So Louisiana Rain is my number 10.
Yeah, I love that track as well. I like that. I do like them tracks where you've got it's sort of semi-acoustic, so you've got this rhythm acoustic guitar and a little bit of electric guitar on, and it's a perfect way to end the album. Chill back. Yeah. We've had a nice time. We'll do this little number, and it's a story track.
Yeah,
great track. I haven't got it in my list, but it is a great track. Now, I've just got a little disclaimer. None of the artists I did last time are in this list, so I didn't want to do that because I could have easily done that. So my number 10 comes from 1980 and an album called Sky 2, and it's probably their biggest hit single as well, and it's Toccata. I mean, I love Toccata and Fugue. Doesn't matter who plays it, but that opening from Francis Monkman is just. It's really, and the other highlight is John Williams, because he does all the acoustic guitar on that. He plays that bit that's normally done on the keyboards and organs, and he did it beautifully. And I just love that. And Tristan Fry's drumming's good in it. It's just a good old-fashioned thing. And it was I think it was their top 10 hit for them as well.
Sky seemed to be a staple of charity shops over here, because I bought a couple of albums out of charity shops, a couple of Skies. I think it was Sky 1 and Sky 3, or it might have been 1 and 2. I'm not sure. I played them once, enjoyed them, haven't played them again. So, no, not bad choice. No. Right, my number 9, and I hope whenever you put the little picture up here, you do not put the uncensored picture. You put the true picture. And it's from 1974, and it's the closing track of Roxy Music's Country Life album, and it's called Prairie Rose, and it is brilliant. It's guitar based, it's again melodic, but it is a good rocker. There's plenty of sax and all those other things Andy Mackay plays, and I absolutely love it. And I know that Big Country actually recorded it live and issued it as a B-side on one of their singles. I think it might have been Chance or in a big one of those anyway. And yeah, really great track. Best song of Country Life, and that's Prairie Rose.
Yeah, of course I'm going to put the proper cover up. It's only up for a few seconds. Yeah, great track. And I do like the Big Country version as well. It's a they did a pretty good version of that. So yeah, what a good track as well. Now, my number 9 comes from 1979. The band is Sparks, and the album is the number 1 in heaven, and it is, of course, the number 1 song in heaven. Ron and Russell just come up with something special on that track. The opening bit, the bit that's not on the 7-inch single, that lovely keyboard giving you that thing of heaven, and then that disco-y pop. The main bulk of the song is absolutely brilliant. It's one of the best songs I have ever done. And I've got the 12-inch version of that, and it's got a bit of Peter Cook on it as well, which is absolutely hilarious. I mean, I love that album. It's my favourite Sparks album, but that track in itself is just pure magic for me.
It is. And even in the early 80s, whenever I used to go to nightclubs, they used to play that an awful lot in a specific nightclub called Kelly's. And we're talking 5 years after it was released, and it was still getting played. I love it as well. I love Sparks in general.
Yeah,
I do like the number one in the Heaven album. It's not my favorite, but because it's really disco. But no, that's a fantastic choice. Well, my number 8, and I could have picked a couple by this band, but I've decided to go for this one, and it's from 1976, and it's the closing track of Slade's Nobody's Fools and All the World's a Stage, which I think is brilliant. It's slightly more, it's different for Slade. It's almost got a little bit of a proggy touch to it as well. There's a great guitar riff in it, and the vocals are almost a little bit distant, not muffled, but in the background. And it sounds different to your normal Slade rocker. It's not a full-blown rocker. It's sort of a mid-tempo one, but I think it's a fantastic way to end the album. And it showed a little bit of a different direction the band was going in. And so I picked that, All the World's a Stage from Slade, Nobody's Fools album, 76.
great album. I think that would definitely make my top 10 of Deep Cut tracks by Slade. It is a great track. People should go and listen to Slade albums, and because you get gems like that.
Yeah, as a real jazz. That's deepest cuts. Nobody really knows that one. It's one that's sort of gone off the radar completely. And
especially people like me and you that just love all the Slade. So, great choice. Absolutely brilliant. Now, my number 8 is from what year? 1971, and it's from an album called L.A. Woman by The Doors. Now, what made this album a bit different? They actually had a bass player on this, and his name was Jerry Sheff. And the closing track, is the brilliant Riders on the Storm. Two things about that. Obviously, Jerry's bass playing added to it, but it's probably one of the best keyboard bits that Ray Manzarek ever did in Doors for me. That gentle piano, which sounds like rain. He got it to a T, and then got Jim's eerie voice. It's one of my favorite Doors tracks. It's so atmospheric, and when they did it live, it was even more eerie. It's just a wonderful track, and it's a shame that they didn't do more with the bass player, because obviously that's the last album Jim Morrison recorded. I think that would have been it. The next album would have been even better, but that is a great closing track.
Oh, it's a classic. I really like that song as well. Brilliant choice. My number 7 is, you think of Slade, you get T-Rex as well. And from 1973, the closing track of Tanks, which is Left Hand Look, which is, it's almost like a gospel-y acoustic song, and there's loads of backing vocals. It's way overproduced, which is great, and I just absolutely love it. So do, and it's one of the longest tracks T-Rex ever did. It's over nearly about 6 minutes long, and fantastic acoustic, plenty of backing vocals, very melodic. Love it.
Yeah, I think Tony Visconti just threw everything, including the kitchen sink, on that, didn't he?
Yep.
I think I think they may have had a lot of fun putting that one together, because it's just, you can tell in the way Mark's singing, and that a lot of fun was had, and it is a great track to end an album. I can't deny that. Not in my list, but it is just absolutely a fantastic track. Okay, my number 7 goes to 1978, and the Who Are You album, and it is, of course, Who Are You which is great, and it was a great theme to CIS, the TV series. I love that, and I mean the album version, not the single version, the full 6 minutes or whatever that it is, because it's got the single bit, and then you have that little bit towards the end that's just absolutely brilliant. Keith Moon is on fire on that. I think it's an absolutely killer track.
It's a good song. I do like it. I don't think it's their best, but I do like it. I think it's a decent song. And it's probably regarded as one of their last classic singles. But yeah, good choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best track on the album as well. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Who album.
No, it's my least. I think
it's pretty gropey in places, but that track sort of restores the faith, as they say.
Well, my number 6 is from an album that I actually rate as this band's worst, and it's from 1981. And it's The Police from the Ghost in the Machine album, and it's a track called Darkness, written by Stuart Copeland, and it's the best track on the album by a mile for me. Well, maybe Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic is up there as well, but it's very melodic again, but it's a slower type song. It's very medium paced and is sort of keyboard driven, and it's completely different to the way overproduced material on the rest of that side with horns and everything else. This is more gentle, and it's a beautiful track. Always thought it should have been a single, never was. I love it. Darkness from Ghost in the Machine by The Police.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite Police tracks. I think it's very influenced by when Stuart was the drummer of Curved Air, because it's got a lot of little prog elements in that track.
Is it a little bit? Yes.
Yeah, I think he's gone, because believe it or not, Stuart Copeland, when he was in Curved Air, his contribution to that band and the music was phenomenal. And I think he was given the reins on this one, and it's Curved Air without Curved Air. It's a Curved Air style track, and that's why I probably love it. It's a great choice again. My number 6 is actually a Beatles track. Shock on Air.
I guess.
It's from Let It Be.
Right. Right. Okay. I wouldn't have guessed that.
And it's Get Back.
Great song.
Yeah. And on the obviously on the studio album, you get all the John Lennon fooling about, which always adds to it. I love that. That album is it's an album that I'm not my favorite, but I just love all the little bits that John Lennon says, especially at the beginning about Charles Hawtrey, and it's just absolutely wonderful. But Get Back is great, and then you've got the legendary concert on the roof, and absolutely a brilliant track. I love Get Back.
Well, great song, and the LP version I think is better than the single version. It was slightly different, and yeah, no, great choice. Well, my number 5 is from 1980, and it's a weird song. It's slow, and it's eerie, and it's very atmospheric, and it's about an oil refinery, and it's from Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, and the track is called Stand Low from their Organisation album. It's about 6 minutes long. It is your synth pop, but it's very, very sort of very laid back, very slow, beautiful vocals, lovely synth, and to sing about an oil refinery, I think is just majorly cool to start with. I've always loved it, and outside of Enola Gay, it's the next best track on that whole album. So Stand Low from OMD.
Yeah, again, it's one of the deep cut tracks off that album that no one really bothers with, or they've never heard it. You will hear it today because it'll be in the playlist. So go and have a listen to that. And if you want to hear a different side of OMD, that's what you're going to get. That is a great track. Good choice as well. Now, this is where we might go on off in different tangents now. My number 5 is from 1972, and it's from Uriah Heep and their album Magician's Birthday. And it is the title track, which was the last track, The Magician's Birthday. Now, this is a story about good versus evil. So it starts off with a happy birthday to you, and played on I think it's played on one of them little bouzouki things. Because on lit stage, Lee Kerslake used to play that in one of these things. And then it goes into the evil bit, which is basically Ken, Lee, and Mick having a frenzy, and then it comes back to the good side, and David Bryan's doing these character voices as well. Just a great track. I just love that track. It's one of my favourite tracks by Uriah Heep.
Don't know it. I don't know any Uriah Heep. As I said in the live stream, we've actually seen them live, and they were okay. But no, I don't know it. I'll check out the playlist. Well, my number 4 is a punk rock classic, even though it was never released as a single. And it's the last track on the Clash's debut album called Garageland, which I think is the best song on the whole album. I think it's the most formed song on the whole album as well. Again, it's a good punchy track, but I think it veers more towards their second album than the really raw, in-your-face, shouty other songs from that album. And it's one of the longer ones. I think it actually hits over 3 minutes. So it does. Most of them are about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. But Garageland, melodic too. Joe Strummer, great vocals on it. And it gets my number 4.
Yeah, good. Another good choice. I think that's the track that actually changed their fortune. Mm-hmm. I think they realised this is good. This is where we want to go. And you was right. When they come up for the second album, it was more like that.
Okay, there is one song that's longer. It's the Police and Thieves, but that was a cover version, just in case anyone said that wasn't the longest on the album. Yeah, but I think it's the longest of the ones that they wrote, and I think it just paves the way towards Give Them Enough Rope.
Yeah, it is. It's a good song. My number 4 comes from 1977, one of my favourite bands, a band that I've met. And I was in one of their videos. So we're talking about AC/DC. And it's from the Let There Be Rock album. And it's the song about the Tasmanian devil weighing in at 19 stone. It's a whole lot of Rosie, which apparently is a true story about a young lady that Mr. Bon Scott met.
Right, okay.
Story goes. Whole Lot of Rosie is just a classic. I mean, at the beginning, they're on stage, you get that da 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 da, and then everyone goes, yes. Just become part of the folklore of that song. And it's got a great guitar solo. It's got some of Malcolm's finest riffs. I just love that track. Okay, everyone likes it, but there's a good reason why we all like it, because it's brilliant.
Well, believe it or not, I have that album. So I do. I actually own that album. And Whole Lot of Rosie is probably my second favorite AC/DC song of all. Second AC/DC song of all time. I always love You Shook Me All Night Long, but fantastic choice. Right, my number 3, I don't know if you've heard this before, but it's by Lindsey Buckingham from his Go Insane album from 1984. And the song is called D.W. Suite. And it does what it says on the tin. It is a suite of 3 different individual tracks. The first part of it is like a slow, folky number. The second part goes into like a gospel-y number. And then the third is like a Mike Oldfield instrumental polka, which gets faster and faster as it goes, and then it comes to an end. And the whole suite, it's down as one track, it's not as 3 tracks, is absolutely fantastic. Now, this album is probably his most 80s sounding album, but that doesn't put me off, because it's probably the second best album ever that he did. And it's called D.W. Suite from the Go Insane album of 1984, Lindsey Buckingham.
Yes, I have heard that song. Yeah, it's a very good hit. I would say it reminds me in some places as David Gates' Cloud Suite, the way it's structured, because that is a long piece, but it's in 3 parts as well. I think it's a genius piece of work from Lindsey, that was. And it's okay, it is very 80s, but this is a guy that's not just a good musician, but can produce good sound. And he used it to his skill. And it doesn't make it dated either. I think you can listen to it now and go, that is still good to listen to. Great choice. Okay, my number 3 is an Irish band. From 1979. Thin Lizzy and the Black Rose album, and the last track on there is the Black Rose. Now, this is when Gary Moore was in the band, and this is one of the only full albums that Gary recorded with Thin Lizzy. I prefer this to Emerald,
right,
because it's more Celtic. It's got some lovely interplay between Scott and Gary, and it's just an amazing track. It is probably one of my favourite tracks by Thin Lizzy. And, you know, everyone went for Emerald, you know, but this is just far better.
Well, I don't want to surprise you again, but I have that album too.
Yes, it's a good album.
That album was produced by Tony Visconti, and it has the fantastic Do Anything You Want To on it. I love that track, I really do. I think Waiting for an Alibi's on it as well.
Yes, it is. And Sarah.
Yeah, really, really good choice. Well, my 2 and 1 are 2 very famous ones. My number 2, and believe it or not, I do have every single album by this band. And it's from 1973, and it's Pink Floyd's Brain Damage Going Into Eclipse, which I absolutely love. It's my all-time favourite Pink Floyd tracks, because you can't have one without the other.
Definitely not.
Definitely not, and I absolutely love it. And the funny thing about this is my brother had this album years and years ago whenever he was a teenager, and he was playing it on his old Ferguson record player, and the speed was going too fast. It was going over 33. It must have been about 35 or 36. And then when he got a new record player and he played it, it sounded too slow, even though it was the correct speed. But no, absolutely love it, and I really do like Roger. I think it's Roger Waters that sings both of them. I really do like his voice on it, although I tend to prefer Dave Gilmour's voice overall. But I think Roger Waters does a fantastic job on it, and that gets my number 2.
Yeah, can't say more about that song. Absolute classic, number 2, and you can't have one without the other. I mean, I was lucky enough to see Pink Floyd when they reformed on the which would have been the Division Bell tour, and they played the whole of Dark Side of the Moon. It's phenomenal, and I think Dave Gilmour singing it is a more softer approach, and I think they're both good, but I think Dave Gilmour gives it more passion. I think, as much as I love Roger singing it, Dave on that, when I saw him live, was wonderful, and it's got some great keyboard from Richard. Great choice. Can't do not say about that. My number 2 is from one of my favourite bands from 1976. Probably one of the greatest rock albums to ever be put on this earth, and it's from Rainbow.
No, I didn't. Right, I'll guess your number 1 then.
Rainbow. And how do you follow the track before it? This is side 2. There's 2 tracks on side 2 of Rising. One is the brilliant Stargazer, but how do you follow that? You put A Light in the Black, which is absolutely killer. Ronnie James Dio, they all kill it on that track. Tony Carey's wonderful keyboards, Cozy's brilliant drumming, Ronnie's on fire, Richie. It's just one of the greatest closing tracks on any album.
Well, I'm gonna third time, Iain. I have that album as well. So do. And Stargazer is my favorite Rainbow track of all time. So yeah. Excellent choice. Well, my number 1 is 3 tracks altogether. And I don't understand why I didn't have this in my first video, because it should have been in it. So it's probably the second best behind the Diamond Dogs Big Brother one. And it's the Beatles, and it's Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight, and The End from Abbey Road, and even Her Majesty, because a lot of people don't like that stuck at the end. But the way I look at it is, if you remember back to the 1970s and even the 1980s, and you're watching TV, and then the channel was shutting down, you always got God Save the Queen at the end. Same when you went to the picture house or the cinema, everybody was running out before the national anthem came on. So that's the way I look at the God Save the Queen bit. I think it's brilliant, and Golden Slumbers is a gorgeous ballad. Carry That Weight is so catchy, and the end even has a Ringo drum solo on it, which is decent. And finishes with the fantastic line, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make, which is, I think, perfect words, and it gets my number one.
Yeah, as it's affectionately known, the Abbey Road medley is wonderful. I can't say any more on it because I love that. Abbey Road is my favourite Beatles album, and that's a great way to end it. And that was the last sort of recording they did, because obviously Abbey Road was recorded after Let It Be. Great choice. Now, my number one, you may guess this. Again, one of the greatest albums of the 70s. This one's from 72, and it is Foxtrot.
Oh, right, Summer's Ready.
Of course. Just wonderful. That whole of that side is 2 tracks, obviously. It's Horizons, that little bit from Steve Hackett, and then it goes into a masterpiece. The finest thing, I know I've said this before, but it's the finest thing that Peter Gabriel ever wrote. And it is still wonderful to listen to. I can listen to that anytime, any place, and I have to listen to it all the way through. My favourite bit will always be Willow Farm.
Oh, it's good. It's excellent. I really like the Phil Collins song version on Seconds Out, though, as well. So I
don't care who sings it. I've heard Ned Sylvan sing it on the Steve Hackett band. It doesn't matter who sings it. It's just a fine piece of music.
No, excellent choice. Right, I'll run through my bubbling unders because we're down to 7 minutes, I think, now.
Yes.
So from 1973, Billy Joel's Captain Jack from his Piano Man album. You know, it is like a slow verse, big chorus, slow verse, big chorus, but it's a very, very good track. It's all about heroin and dealing with heroin. The Proclaimers from 1988 and Oh Jean, which is very long, but it's a big sort of sing-along song from their Sunshine on Leith album, which I think is fantastic. So if you ever get Sunshine on Leith, Rob Walker, you'll enjoy that. The Bangles from their Everything album in 1988, and it's Crash and Burn, which is about a wee 2.5-minute rocker at the end with Vicky Peterson singing. I think she does a fantastic job, really catchy. And 2 more, The Cars from their Shake It Up album in 81, and it's a track called Maybe Baby. And I just love that album. And I think Maybe Baby is one of the great tracks on it. The keyboard on it is really, really good. And it is guitar heavy, but the keyboard is the one that drives it for me. And finally, from 1985, Adam Ant and POE going into a refrain of Apollo 9. You have to have, well, you don't really have to have the both of them, but POE is really the last song, and that's the one I'm really counting. And it is catchy as hell. I absolutely love it. It's from his Vive Le Rock album, and it should have been a single. So those are my bubbling unders.
Yeah, the Bangles. I thought Vicky was the best to sing the rockers.
Yes,
very good choices. You know, they're all good closers. Well, mine, you'll like my first one. 1976. It's the Give Us the Wink album.
Oh.
And Healer.
Healer, yeah.
Oh, Mick Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're not, everyone associates Wig Wam Bam and Blockbuster, but if you want to go anywhere real sweet, go and listen to that.
Heavy album. A heavy album.
Give Us the Wink is one of the great sweet albums, and Healer is brilliant. 1977 from the next one, from the Lights Out album by UFO, and the wonderful Love to Love. That great Michael Schenker riff at the beginning, the lovely piano, I think it's Paul Raymond. Wonderful, wonderful track. Got a bit of heavy metal now from Power Slave, 1984, and The Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. One of the best long tracks by Iron Maiden. Then we go to 1984 for Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, my hometown. I think this can relate to anybody's hometown. The words are perfect. It's everything. Bruce come up with a gem there. It's just everything about, you listen to that and you can think things that relate to where your hometown is. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. And you'll definitely like my last one, from 1976 ABBA album from The Arrival.
Well,
And it's Arrival. I absolutely adore that.
I couldn't pick ABBA because I picked Like an Angel in the previous video. That's my all-time favorite ABBA track. Never mind anything else. I absolutely love it.
And
Brilliant
Mike
song.
Oldfield did a half-decent version of it as
Oh,
well.
he did a brilliant version of it as well. So he did.
So there we go. Again, a bit more diverse music taste, but I think every track in there that we've mentioned today are still absolute killers.
Aye.
Okay, well, that's all for today.
I enjoyed that.
I'm going to have a nice chill weekend. I'm going to watch the football tomorrow. Cheer
Nice.
on the Lionesses. I'll be back on Monday with a bit of Fu Manchu and a bit of reggae. And there's a special video on Monday for Rocky.
Happy birthday, Rocky.
Yeah, he's 13 on. Can't believe he's 13. It's 92 in in human years, isn't it? Something like that. 91, 92.
Team is 91.
Yeah, 91. So look out for that. So all it leaves me to say is it's goodbye for me.
That's goodbye from him. Bye.
Bye.